They say family always comes first, but sometimes family becomes your greatest enemy. I'm Anna, born in 1952 in Cleveland, Ohio. Back in 2018, when I was 66, my son Marcus called with tears in his voice, begging me to help save his house from foreclosure. I felt my heart breaking for him, but then something happened that would change everything. Today, at 72 and finally free, I'm sharing this because no parent should endure what I did. If you're listening, drop your location below, and please like and subscribe. You'll want to hear how this ends. It started innocently enough. Marcus, my only child, had always been charming but irresponsible with money. When he married Jessica 5 years earlier, I hoped she'd be a stabilizing influence. Instead, she seemed to amplify his worst tendencies. That October evening, they showed up at my door in Lakewood, both looking devastated. Marcus's construction business had hit a rough patch, and they were 3 months behind on their mortgage. "Mom, we're going to lose everything," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "The bank gave us 30 days. Jessica's pregnant, and we can't raise a baby on the streets." Jessica stood behind him, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, looking appropriately distressed. My heart melted. I'd raised Marcus alone after his father died when he was 12, working double shifts as a nurse to keep us afloat. The idea of my grandchild being homeless was unbearable. "How much do you need?" I asked, already reaching for my checkbook. They exchanged a quick glance so brief I almost missed it. "Just enough to catch up and get back on track," Marcus said. "Maybe 15,000? We'll pay you back within 3 years, I promise. With interest." Jessica nodded eagerly. "We've already talked to a financial advisor. Marcus's business will bounce back, and I'll return to work after maternity leave." I wrote the check that night, dipping into the savings my late husband Robert and I had carefully built over 30 years. It felt good to help my family to be needed. But 3 years turned into 5, and the temporary help became a permanent drain. Every month, like clockwork, Marcus would call. "Mom, just one more payment. Things are almost turned around." The amounts grew larger, first 2,000, then 3, then 4,000 monthly. By 2023, I'd given them over $200,000. My retirement savings were nearly gone, and I was forced to take a part-time job as a janitor at the local community center. The humiliation of mopping floors at 71, while my son and daughter-in-law lived in their 4-bedroom house with 2 new cars, ate at me daily. But family comes first, right? The worst part wasn't the money, it was their complete indifference to my well-being. They only called when they needed cash. No birthday calls, no holiday visits unless they wanted something. When I mentioned feeling lonely, Jessica would sigh dramatically. "Anna, we're so busy with the kids and work. You understand." But they had time for expensive vacations, posting photos from Cancun and Disney World while I ate ramen noodles to stretch my grocery budget. Everything changed last February when I had a heart episode and ended up in the ICU at Cleveland Clinic. I was alone, scared, and connected to machines when Marcus finally showed up, not to comfort me, but to discuss the mortgage payment. "Mom, I know this is bad timing," he said, barely glancing at my monitors, "but the payment's due tomorrow and our account's short." Jessica stood beside him, already calculating. "Don't worry about Anna," she whispered, thinking I couldn't hear. "The life insurance will cover everything we've loaned her, plus extra." That's when I realized they weren't helping me out of love, they were investing in my death. The woman I thought was my daughter-in-law was actually counting down the days until my funeral. My neighbor Diane, a retired teacher who'd become my closest friend, visited daily with homemade soup and genuine concern. The contrast was stark. A stranger showing more love than my own blood. Jessica's manipulation reached new lows when she called crying about little Emma being seriously ill. and needing expensive treatments not covered by insurance. The doctors say it could be leukemia, she sobbed. We need $20,000 immediately. I emptied my emergency fund, only to see Emma perfectly healthy at the grocery store 2 days later, Jessica buying organic everything without a care in the world. The final straw came when they pressured me to sell my house, the home Robert and I had shared for 40 years, filled with our memories. Mom, you're rattling around in that big place, Marcus said during what I thought was a rare family dinner. Sell it and you can move in with us. We'll take care of you. Jessica's eyes gleamed. We found this amazing 6-bedroom house in Westlake. With your house money as down payment, we could afford it easily. You'd have your own room, and you could help with the kids. Help with the kids. Translation: become their live-in, unpaid babysitter while they enjoyed the profits from my home sale. I felt my chest tighten, the familiar pressure that had sent me to the hospital before. I need to think about it, I managed to say. Jessica's smile faltered. What's to think about? Family should stick together. That night I couldn't sleep. The stress was literally killing me and they didn't care. When I called Marcus the next morning to discuss my concerns, Jessica answered his phone. Anna, you're being selfish, she said coldly. We've supported you all these years, and now you won't help us when we need it most. Supported me? I'd given them everything I had. The breaking point came 3 days later when I collapsed in my kitchen from another heart episode. As I lay on the floor gasping for breath, I managed to call 911. While the paramedics worked on me, I heard Jessica's voice in the hallway, talking to someone on her phone. Yes, she's finally having the big one. Start looking for the house deed and her savings passbook. They're probably in that old desk upstairs. She wasn't even pretending to care anymore. She was already dividing up my assets while I fought for my life. Diane rode with me to the hospital and stayed by my side while my own family was nowhere to be found. When I was stable, she leaned close and whispered, Anna, honey, you need to protect yourself. This isn't love, this is abuse. Her words hit me like lightning. I'd spent 5 years enabling my own financial destruction, mistaking manipulation for family loyalty. The next morning, I called Melanie Rodriguez, an elder law attorney Diane recommended. Melanie was sharp, compassionate, and furious when I explained my situation. Mrs. Patterson, what they're doing is elder financial abuse, she said firmly. We're going to stop this immediately. Within a week, she'd helped me establish an irrevocable trust, naming Diane as my healthcare proxy and beneficiary. Most importantly, we added a disinheritance clause specifically excluding Marcus and Jessica from any inheritance due to their financial exploitation and emotional abuse. I changed the locks on my house and opened a new bank account at a different branch, cutting off their access completely. For the first time in years, I felt powerful instead of powerless. When Marcus called demanding his monthly payment, I was ready. The payments stop now, I said calmly. I've consulted with an attorney, and I'm protecting my remaining assets. The silence was deafening. Then Jessica grabbed the phone. You can't do this to us. We have children to think about. Her mask had completely slipped. No more fake sweetness, just raw greed and entitlement. You should have thought about that before treating me like a walking ATM, I replied. Don't contact me again unless it's to apologize and start paying back what you owe. They showed up at my door 2 days later, Marcus looking sheepish while Jessica radiated fury. Mom, let's talk about this reasonably, Marcus began, but Jessica cut him off. Where are your financial documents? We need to see what you've done. The audacity was breathtaking. You're not welcome here, I said through the chain lock. My attorney will be in touch about repayment plans. Jessica pushed past Marcus, trying to force her way inside. This is ridiculous. We're family. But I'd installed a security camera system, and Diane was recording everything from across the street. "You're trespassing," I said loudly for the camera. "Leave now, or I'm calling the police." Jessica's true nature exploded. "You selfish old witch. We wasted years taking care of you. And this is how you repay us." Taking care of me? The delusion was complete. They'd never taken care of anything except their own bank account. Marcus finally pulled Jessica away, but not before she screamed, "You'll die alone and forgotten." Her words should have hurt, but instead I felt liberated. I was already alone. I'd been alone for 5 years while they pretended to love me. The next week, Marcus tried a different approach, bringing 8-year-old Emma to my door. "Grandma Anna," she said in a rehearsed voice, "Mommy says you don't love us anymore because you won't help with our house." Using a child as emotional blackmail was their lowest point yet. I knelt down to Emma's level. "Sweetheart, I love you very much, but grown-ups sometimes make bad choices with money. That's between me and your parents." Marcus's face crumpled. "Mom, please. We'll lose everything." For a moment, I almost wavered until I remembered Jessica calculating my life insurance payout while I lay dying. "You should have thought about that before you started planning my funeral," I said quietly. His face went white. He knew I'd heard. Melanie sent them a cease and desist letter, threatening legal action if they continued harassing me. The letter detailed every instance of financial abuse, every manipulative phone call, every fake emergency. Marcus called once more, crying and begging, but I'd found my strength. "You made your choice when you decided I was worth more dead than alive," I told him. "Live with it." The consequences came swiftly. Marcus's construction business, built on my money, began failing without my monthly injections. Jessica's church friends, who'd heard about their treatment of me through Diane's network, started avoiding them. Marcus was eventually fired from a side job when his employer learned about the elder abuse. Their perfect facade crumbled as quickly as they built it on my sacrifice. I donated my house to a women's shelter, knowing it would help women escape abusive situations like mine. I moved into a simple 1-bedroom apartment near Diane, finally free from the burden of maintaining a house full of painful memories. My new life was smaller but infinitely richer. I had genuine friendships, volunteer work that fulfilled me, and most importantly, peace. 6 months later, I heard through mutual acquaintances that Marcus and Jessica had divorced. The financial pressure and mutual blame had destroyed their marriage. Marcus moved back in with his mother-in-law, while Jessica struggled as a single mother. Emma, thankfully, seemed happier away from their toxic dynamic. I never spoke to Marcus again. Some people called me heartless, but I'd learned the difference between love and exploitation. Real love doesn't come with monthly payment demands. Real family doesn't celebrate your potential death. I'd spent 70 years believing blood was thicker than water, only to discover that chosen family like Diane was stronger than biological obligation. Today I'm healthier, happier, and financially stable. I've learned that protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. If my story resonates with you, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories. Share this with anyone who might be facing similar manipulation, and comment below with your thoughts on family boundaries. Sometimes the greatest act of love is learning to say no. Moral lesson. Remember, dear hearts, that true family nurtures your soul rather than draining your spirit. Choose love over obligation, peace over guilt, and always protect your precious well-being first.